What's up everyone, Sunshine Cup is starting later today, so let's get ready for it. In today's video, I'll show you some of the best Pokeball and teams to run in the Sunshine Cup. In the Sunshine Cup, only normal fire, grass and ground type Pokeball are allowed and Charizard is banned. And this creates a format that is heavily dominated by normal types, especially as you can see, top 20 of PvP Poke is just the majority is normal types, and especially Vigoroth is incredibly stronger. It is the king of this cup in my opinion, as there really aren't many hard counters to it. The only real good answers are some of the ghost types, like Trevenant, Runerigus, Golurk with Mudslap, can just Mudslap a Vigoroth down, but they don't have very good matchups versus anything else in this meta. They just get absolutely walled by the Flyers, which are really good too. So I don't recommend you to run this Pokemon. Instead, to beat Vigoroth, you're gonna have to rely on Flyers that resist counter, like Gligar or Tropius. But even these don't do that well versus Vigoroth. A regular Gligar, for example, does win 0s and 1s versus Vigoroth, but loses the 2s. Just straight Body Slam from the Vigoroth. Not that amazing. Shadow Gligar loses the 0s versus Vigoroth when I go straight Body Slam. It is kind of wild. Tropius, same deal. Tropius, probably one of the more reliable counters to Vigoroth. That's also viable. I think of Tropius a very viable Pokemon, but loses the 2s again. Now this is 1 HP loss. This is not something you should really be worried about. So Tropius, good counter, but you know, the 1s still get so close. So Vigoroth in this meta is just an incredible pivot. Same with Talonflame, to be honest. Talonflame is a Pokemon I want to use here. It seems pretty good in the meta, but if you bait with Talonflame, yeah, Vigoroth loses. If we go straight Flame Charge, Vigoroth just wins the 0s and 2s. It's crazy. Vigoroth is absolutely incredible in this format, and it's not the only normal type that's really good. The normal Flyers are also really solid. Only have to worry about steel types like Steelix and Galarian Stunfisk, but I think Steelix might be the main steel type, though Galarian Stunfisk is definitely a nice option here, as it is one of the few core breakers to the Steelix Pidgeot core, which is something you might see kind of often, as it is kind of solid, but Stunfisk does break that. And also you have ice types like Piloswine, which can also beat Flyers, but Piloswine is not super strong here because of the existence of Vigoroth. And also, you know, Abomasnow is definitely preferred ice, but Abomasnow doesn't do that well versus Flyers either. What else? Oh yeah, there's Diggersby. I think Diggersby is extremely good here too as a pivot in this meta. Just a very flexible Pokemon. Honestly, might be right up there with Vigoroth, as with actually, I recommend you run a different moveset on Diggersby, actually. The moveset that PvP Poke recommends is with Hyper Beam, and that is definitely extremely viable. But personally, I think Fire Punch might be the way. Because with Fire Punch, Diggersby just becomes an incredible pivot. You know, Hyper Beam does give it a really good matchup versus Gligar. This is, by the way, bait dependent. If you don't bait here, which, you know, baiting is risky, so not something I generally recommend. It gets closer, you lose 2s. You do win 1s though, so Diggersby also decent answer to Gligar. But you still win this with Fire Punch, just barely. In the 1s that is, you do win this, straight Fire Punch. And now you can also beat Abomasnow. Look at this. You win the 0s, just barely, and the rest is very close. Shadow, I think, is more commonly run on Abomasnow, and you win 1s and 2s here as Diggersby, which is really nice. Besides that, if you get 1 quick attack advantage, you still beat Swamperts, which you could see coming into you. Actually, I think it's only Shadow Swampert you beat. But still, even versus regular, you saw you get very close with Diggersby, which as a ground type is really nice. Besides that, even though you're not running Hyper Beam, you still beat Vigoroth in the 0 shields, even without a quick attack advantage. So, yeah, Diggersby, this is just straight Scorching Sands, by the way. Diggersby is definitely a Pokemon I recommend, and I think this moveset might have some play, though Hyper Beam, of course, still very good. It depends on what you're gonna use Diggersby for, really. In the team I'll showcase you later, Diggersby is gonna be the pivot, and in that case, I do like Fire Punch, just for that extra, Abomasnow coverage, because with Hyper Beam, you don't do that well here, but with Fire Punch, you can actually beat this Pokemon. As well as other grass types like Tropius, you actually do decent against. Actually, I haven't simulated that. We'll do it live. Let's see how good Fire Punch Diggersby is versus Tropius. You know, in 2s especially, you make it kind of close. I mean, 0s, of course, you're a ground type versus a grass type. It's not that great, but you still make it kind of close, which is quite nice. Besides the normal types, there's definitely some other viable Pokeball as well, like a Bulbasaur, which is one of the prime Gligar answers because of the ice typing, but you do have to watch out for Vigoroth. These three, Abomasnow, Vigoroth, and Gligar, form kind of a rock, paper, scissors trio, where Gligar beats Vigoroth, Vigoroth beats Abomasnow, Abomasnow beats Gligar, so I would expect you see these three like very, very often, even in the same team. One of the Pokemon that can break these three is Victini, actually. Victini, of course, not that great versus Gligar because of Dig, but because V-Crate does so much, you definitely have Play there, and you're resisting counters, so generally you do beat Vigoroth, and of course you're Fire, you resist everything from Abomasnow, so you do beat that. So Victini, I think a very good option there, especially in the lead, where you can V-Create and dip out to clear that debuff, or in the back, where you can use Victini to just completely sweep an opponent. Another decent core breaker for his 3 is Talonflame, by the way, as it is very good versus Abomasnow, and fine versus both Gligar and Vigoroth, so another Fire I recommend to you. Male Tank, a normal type, which I think has a lot of play with Ice Beam. You know, for the Flyers, it's really nice. It can beat Abomasnow too, which is good. Oh, it actually beats Shadow Swampert. I wasn't expecting that, but that's quite nice too. Again, just that Vigoroth is quite a pain. Swampert, a good Pokeball there, as long as you can avoid Grass types. Should be looking fine there. And with Sludge Wave, you can actually still beat Grass types, especially Abomasnow. If you get a bait here, you can win that matchup. Steelix, one of the prime anti-flyers, especially to beat like Pidgeots or Noctiles. Steelix is just incredible there. And Steelix isn't even that bad versus Vigoroth as well. You get very close in this matchup, just going straight Breaking Swipe. Look at this. Look at this. This is pretty incredible, actually. 14 HP. Vigoroth only lives at 14 HP. Actually, it does get out of here with a move if it keeps countering, which is not the best, of course, but it's double the buff. So any Pokemon will be able to take that afterwards. And if you just shoot up this Bulldoze, like, you can, I think, win this matchup or make it much, much closer. So definitely a good Pokeball too. Credilli is a Pokemon I really liked in a previous season of Sunshine Cup because of its grass rock typing. It's a grass type that has a lot of play versus flying types, just like Abomasnow, but unlike Abomasnow, it actually does better versus Vigoroth. If you get like a Bullet Seed advantage here, I'm pretty sure you get very close to winning the zeros. Actually, you do win the zeros here. So yeah, again, like as a pivot, I think Credilli has a lot of potential. Just like Flygon, who because of Dragon Tail just does not have a lot of Pokeball that hard wall it. There really is only Steelix that can like resist Dragon Tails, at least out of Pokeball to the top meta. There's definitely some other Steel types out there, and also a couple Fairies, but in general the Fairies just aren't that high rated. Like the highest is Whimsicott, which is rank 103. Don't think it's a very viable option. So I think Shadow Flygon has a ton of play too, as it can just Dragon Tail through so many Pokemon. Anyway, I'm gonna stop myself right there, because if I keep talking about the rankings, this video is just gonna take hours, and I don't think you have that kind of time. I do think I got most of the like super meta Pokemon covered anyway, and if I missed any, please let me know down in the comments below. I think everyone would appreciate your insight. Anyway, we're just gonna start heading into the team, starting with a squad I expect you'll see very often. Triple normal, usually with a flying type lead, like a Pidgeot. Rufflet could also work there, Noctile's fine, Swellow even. All the normal flyers are okay. I think Pidgeot especially though, it's really nice. As with Feather Dance, you can debuff Pokemon, which just give you a lot of play even in bad matchups. And Brave Bird just nukes everything so hard. You could also consider going Aerial Ace as a cheaper move. Personally, if you're Pidgeot in the lead and you want to run Aerial Ace, I would consider getting rid of Brave Bird. Since in the lead, you're usually not going to make that much use of Brave Bird anyway. Generally, you're just going to want to Feather Dance or be sneaky into Brave Bird. But Aerial Ace could be a nice, consistent flying option as well. Though getting rid of Feather Dance could definitely be worth it as well. Personally, if I run this team, I'm just going to be running Feather Dance Brave Bird though. Or running a different flying type like Noctile for the extra bulk. In the back, we got Diggersby. Again, in this team, I think personally I would go with Quick Attack, Fire Punch, and Scorching Sands, just because then you're a little stronger versus Abomasnow. Abomasnow definitely has some struggles with the normal flying types as well, but generally Abomasnow still wins, so having that extra like coverage for Abomasnow in Fire Punch, Diggersby in the back, I think is very nice. And you know, as a third, we got Vigoroth, because Vigoroth is Vigoroth, and it is a Vigoroth Cup. You gotta run Vigoroth. If you're not running Vigoroth, what are you doing? Honestly, maybe it's smart, because everyone expects Vigoroth as a third Pokemon on your team. So a different Pokemon could work here as well, but Vigoroth is just Vigoroth. It's very strong. You could also pick like other normal types in this team. Maybe a Male Tank, if you want the extra flying coverage. Lopunny, we haven't talked about Lopunny actually, but I think Lopunny has play here. There's triple axle to hit flying types like Tropius and Gligar for double super effective damage. Vigoroth struggles on the matchups, of course, but Lopunny has more play there, so consider Lopunny as well. Though Lopunny with double kick, fire punch, and triple axle, it doesn't do that well versus Vigoroth, and also struggles with Pokemon like Steelix as well, because it's just so much more bulky. So I think Lopunny is an interesting choice, but more spicy than, you know, let's say a Vigoroth. Anyway, no matter what normals you pick, I think this squad will be solid, so definitely consider trying it out, or at least be aware that people will be running this. Next up, a team I'm very excited to try out, as it's just a tad more spicy than the usual. This team doesn't contain Vigoroth, doesn't contain any normal types actually, but I think it's still quite anti-meta, and that's why I think it can work. Talonflame lead, Cordilli in the middle, and Flygon in the back. Shadow Flygon actually, that's quite important, because it just does way more fast with damage with Dragon Tails than a normal variant would. So I think Shadow Flygon is definitely the way here. Talonflame in the lead, just a very good core breaker. Besides water types, Talonflame has play versus basically everything, especially the top meta like Abomasnow, Gligar, Vigoroth. Talonflame is very fine versus all of those. Cordilli functions as a very good pivot in this line. Now, I haven't quite figured out what moves I want to run this. Definitely run Bullet Seed and Grass Knot, but then as a third move, or the second charge move, you could either run Rock Slide or Stone Edge. Now, Rock Slide is generally better, as you just get to it quicker, and generally you're gonna need 2 moves to knock out like bulky Pokemon anyway. However, Stone Edge hits a lot harder, and especially Abomasnows you want Stone Edge for, because with Rock Slide, an Abomasnow can take 1 move. They're not, you don't threaten to knock them out. So if you pivot Cordilli and Abomasnow switches in and you run Rock Slide, you have no chance to flip that. But with Stone Edge, you can. If you hit 1 Stone Edge, Abomasnow is gonzo. So that's why I think Stone Edge might be the way. Personally, that's what I will be trying out, but Rock Slide could definitely be fine as well, as it's just a cheaper and more consistent move. Flygon, you're gonna want to run with Dragon Tail, Shadow Flygon by the way, Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw, and then Scorching Sands or Earth Power. I do think Scorching Sands is preferred. It's a little weaker than Earth Power, but does have the chance for attack drop, and it's also cheaper than Earth Power. Personally, I'm pretty sure my current Shadow Flygon, the only one I have, has Earth Power, and Earth Power is a legacy move, and I kind of don't want to team it away, because there's always a chance I might want Earth Power another time, because it is still a stronger move than Scorching Sands, so might want Earth Power some other time. So personally, I'm probably gonna run this with Earth Power, but if you don't have a Shadow Flygon built yet, just go Scorching Sands. It's definitely a very good move. So yeah, overall, if you have a good lead with this team, stay in Talonflame, do as much damage as you can with it, but try to not use too many shields, as you might need them for Flygon later. If you have a bad lead, switch to Cordilli to get shield advantage. If they bring in a Abomasnow, it's actually ideal, because then the main threat to Flygon is gone. And just save shields for Flygon, Dragon Tail everything down, and you win. Hopefully, we'll see. You know, these teams without like the ultra top meta are always a little bit risky. Like, you're much safer going with one of the other teams, with Vigoroth for example. But I think this team can definitely work. Just gonna be a little harder to run than some of the Vigoroth squads. Next up, another top meta team, which if you don't end up running this, definitely be prepared for it, because people will be running this. It's just a squad that makes sense. Vigoroth, Abomasnow, and Gligar, 3 of the top meta Pokemon that cover each other incredibly well. Vigoroth mainly worries about flyers like Gligar and Tropius, which Abomasnow hard beats. Abomasnow mainly worries about fire types and fighting types, which both Vigoroth and Gligar do fine against. And Gligar mainly worries about ice types and water types like Swampert, which Abomasnow beats, and ice types like Abomasnow and Pillow-Swine, which Vigoroth beats. So these 3 just cover each other incredibly well. Vigoroth, king of the cup, in the lead, win the game, okay? Because Abomasnow and Gligar cover each other well. That's the idea here. If you don't win the lead, let's say you lead your Vigoroth into actually, I don't know. What does Vigoroth lose? There's nothing that Vigoroth really loses to, but if you do lead into a flyer, like a Talonflame, probably Talonflame you stay in, but let's say you lead into a Tropius, yeah, switch it to Gligar in that case. If you lead into a Gligar, you probably want to Body Slam and then dip out into your own Gligar. That's probably the play I would make, but generally, you're just going to want to stay in with Vigoroth, try to win the lead, and then rock, paper, scissors the backline with the solid Abomasnow Gligar core. If you want a foolproof team, honestly, I think this is it. Next up, a team around Miltank, who with its rollout Ice Beam Body Slam coverage does quite well versus a lot of Pokemon Gligar is weak against, like Abomasnow and some of the other flyers. So these two form quite a nice duo, though they can still struggle against Swampert, and Miltank struggles against Vigoroth in the lead, so you're gonna want to run something in the back that can deal with both of those, like your own Swampert or Vigoroth. Vigoroth probably the preferred option here, because again, Vigoroth is just incredible in this cup, so run it. Because of Miltank's coverage, I do expect it to win quite a lot of leads. In that case, you just stay in and win lead, and then let Gligar, Vigoroth, Core do the rest of the work, basically. But if you do happen to lose a lead, of course, switching your Vigoroth, that's the strongest pivot here. Play out that matchup and hope you can either realign or take switch advantage for either Miltank or Gligar, because both do quite well with switch advantage in the back as well. Next up, we got a fun core of Victini and Abomasnow, which cover each other quite well. Victini really only worries about ground and water types, which Abomasnow can take out, and Abomasnow worries about fire types and fighting types like Vigoroth. And Victini, with the moveset of Quick Attack, V-Create, and Psychic, can beat those two. I do recommend Psychic here for those other fire types like Talonflame or Ninetales. You just do much better there with Psychic, but you know, Overheat is definitely a choice as well, or even Focus Blast if you want to be insane. Actually, Focus Blast to one-shot Diggersby could be pretty dope. But in general, I think Psychic is the more consistent move. And Overheat could be cool too, as just a bigger nuke than V-Create. And instead of debuffing your defense, you debuff your attack, which could come in handy in some situations too. But in general, I think Psychic is the way. On Abomasnow, by the way, I think Shadow is preferred. You just hit harder, which allows you to one-shot some Pokemon. But I don't think regular is like strictly better. Regular is actually better versus like a Diggersby. If they're running Fire Punch, regular can actually survive that, whereas Shadow gets taken out much easier. So I prefer Shadow, but if you have regular only, that's definitely fine as well. Now, there's a couple core breakers for this team, especially Alola Marowak. Even with Psychic, Victini doesn't have too much play there, so honestly, whenever you see that, you're just gonna lose, but it's not that common. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be... I don't think it's going to be common. If it's going to be common, yeah, okay, I messed up. This team is not going to work, but I don't think it will be common. But yeah, if it is, don't run this team. Double, also a problem, because super effective double kicks on Abomasnow and payback to just one-shot Victini. But it gets to the payback so slowly, you just outpace the V-Creates. I do think Victini has a lot of play versus Double, so I think it's a very playable Pokemon. Diggersby, if it's running like Quick Attack or Mudshot with Fire Punch, Scorching Sands, definitely a problem for the score, but even with Fire Punch, Abomasnow has a lot of play versus Diggersby, so don't think you should worry too much about it, but you will have to play around it a little bit. I think the third would have to beat a Doppel and Diggersby though, which is why in these two teams on the top right, I got one team with Victini lead, which was where I really like Victini, as you can just V-Create and dip out into Vigoroth, you know, clear that debuff after you've taken a shield or a bunch of health from your opponent's lead. You know, that's really nice. And then you have Vigoroth in the back to cover for, you know, Doppels and Diggerspies, as well as just being an amazing pivot to potentially lure out like fire types as well, like, you know, Talonflame or Blaziken, which Abomasnow doesn't want to see, and then you can sweep with Abomasnow in the back. Or you go with an Abomasnow lead double fire line. You know, use Talonflame as a pivot to lure out water types like Swampert. You can Brave Bird that, take a shield or do a bunch of damage. And then, you know, once that water type is gone, Victini is just looking very good in that back. That was it for the teams today. I hope this was useful. Let me know down in the comments below what you're going to be running in the Sunshine Cup. I would love to see that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with your battle trainers.